So we're going to name polynomials, and we're going to name it two ways. We're going to name it by number of terms, and we're going to name it by the highest degree. Okay, and so that's the first thing we're going to do. This is stuff that you will have to study a little bit, just so when you take the test, it won't be a big deal. The nice thing is it's no work. It's just you study the words. Okay. The first thing that we're going to understand with this is what polynomial means. Poly basically means many, and nomials basically means, well, numbers, or in our case in algebra we say terms. Okay, so the first list I'm going to do is the highest degree. We're going to look at degrees here, and so I am going to do a little chart with you. And I don't remember where I put my little straight edge. Well, we will deal without a complex straight edge. So go ahead and make a little chart with me. Doesn't really make a straight line since it's curved, but it's better than nothing. I might need my new pens. Yeah, these are running out. They're dying. Okay. So this is going to be, this is too ugly. This is way too ugly. We'll use this. All right, I'm going to make the little chart here, and unfortunately my other color is gone. And I'll put the little categories. Okay, the first thing we're going to need on a little chart here is we're going to need name. Okay, the second thing we're going to need is degree. The third thing is we're going to need is an example. And the last thing we're going to need is graph. We are not going to do a lot with graphing, but we are going to know basically where we're going with this. This is a subject that we don't do all of. We just do the Algebra 1 part of it. Okay. And hopefully I'll have room to do a little version of the graph. Okay, the first name that we are going to do here is we are going to do constant. Okay, the degree is 0, and I need to define degree for you. And I really needed this pen to work. So that's fine, we'll use this. An example of a constant would be 4. And the graph would look like, well, it would just be a point. Another thing for degree, what degree means is the highest power. Okay. The next thing is something that we've already done. It is linear. Okay. Linear is a degree 1. That means the highest exponent is a 1. Here's an example. Okay, I don't normally write an exponent when it's a 1, but we know that everything has a 1 exponent. And the graph, of course, for linear is a line. Okay. The next and most important thing that we'll be dealing with is called quadratic. Yep. So the next one is quadratic. And I'm going to make sure I spell it right. Its degree is a 2. An example of a quadratic would be like this. Okay, and again, the degree is the highest power. So I do have 2 x's, but I only care about the highest. Okay, and its graph is going to look basically like this. And we're not going to do this forever, but we are going to do 2 more, or 3 more. So the next one is cubic. And this might be an example of a cubic. Okay. It doesn't have to have a bunch of stuff. And this is what the cubic graph will look like. Okay. The next one will be like a quart of milk. It will be quartic. Okay, and so that would be 4, and so this might be an example of quartic. Let's make sure I spelled that right. Q-U-A-R-T-I-C. This would be an example of quartic. Okay, it can be very long. And here would be the graph. And the last one we're going to do, it does keep going on, but we just really need to do this, is quintic. A lot of Q words. And so this would be a 5, and example could be 3x to the 5th plus 2x. And its graph is going to look like this. All right, and again, we're not doing a lot with graphing. We are going to do some, just kind of know what each one of these powers, it has so huge of an effect on the problem, it changes the graph. So the most important variable is the one with the biggest power, and the most effective is the one with the power, because powers affect the numbers greater than just a constant. Okay. So I like to look at this as as the first name for our polynomials. Looking at this part lets you know kind of what the graph looks like. It actually also lets you know how many answers the question is going to have. So a linear problem, when you solve a linear problem, you're going to get 1 answer. If you solve a quadratic problem, you're going to get 2 answers. A cubic problem, 3, quartic 4, quintic 5. And basically, you get an answer for every time you switch directions. So linear, you got 1 direction. Quadratic, you have 2 directions. Cubic, we go down, then up, then down. So that's 3 directions. So that's kind of how that works. All right, so the easier name, we're going to name by number of terms. All right, so I'll make a little chart of this real quick. Yeah, let's see, the remote works pretty good. No, it doesn't. It's terrible. Terrible, horrible situation. We'll do the best we can. So number of terms and then name. And then we'll do example. All right, and so we're basically going to do 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and then more than 3. Okay. Name for 1 term. That is going to be monomial. So it is a monomial. 1 term is a monomial. Like monocle. An example of a monomial. Okay. 2 terms. Like a bicycle. That will be a binomial. Example of a binomial might be like this. 3x plus 4. Remember, terms are separated by plus or minus signs. All right, let me make sure we don't get those confused. That's a 3x. 3 terms, like a tricycle, is a trinomial. Okay, and we're going to see trinomials a lot at our level. Okay, more than 3 terms, we're just going to basically say, so if it was 4s, we'll do this, 4-term polynomial. You know, if it had 18 terms, which we're not going to have at this level, we'd call it an 18-term polynomial. We're not going to memorize anything. For our purposes, monomial, binomial, trinomial are the main things that we're going to have to know. So this is just the naming part of it. And so I'm going to give you a couple examples of this. And then we are going to just kind of do our first thing before we start into math.